Good morning, hello, and welcome to this date in history, also known as TDH. The sources of this, the show is all about the events that... okay, let's try that again. This show is all about the events that occurred to date in years past, both recognized by actual historians, but mainly things that we personally find intriguing enough for us to bring to you. The sources of this information comes from the Smart Device application, Today in History, What Happened Today in History, Historical Calendar, and the website onthisday.com. For links to those sources, the music, and anything else potentially interesting, check the underbar of the description below. Anyway, I am Xander, and you are you. Today is Tears Day, also known as Tuesday, June 28th, 2022. What happened on this date in history, you may ask? Well, we'll start in the year 1461, in which Edward IV was crowned King of England. Moving on up into 1519, King Carlos I was elected Holy Roman Catholic Emperor Charles V. 1691, Siege of Cunero ended in a French defeat and a loss of 700 to 800 troops after Imperial cavalry arrived to relieve forces led by Duke of Savoy, Victor Amadeus II, during the 9 Years' War. Interesting. 1762, Russian Tsarina Catherine II seized power, declaring herself sovereign ruler of Russia. Dang. Look at that smug-ass look on her face. That look is way too smug for that double chin she's rocking, too. 1776, the final draft of the Declaration of Independence submitted to the Continental Congress occurred. Nice. 1838, the coronation of Queen Victoria in Westminster Abbey, London occurred. 1880, Australian bush wrangler Ned Kelly was captured at Glenrowan. Ned Kelly. Yeah, like the Wild Wild West did not end on the shores of the United States or of America at the time. 1895, French painter Paul Gauguin left France for Tahiti for the second time. I wonder what's so good about Tahiti. 2 years later, in 1897, during the Wimbledon's women's tennis, England's Blanche Bingley Hilliard won her fourth title, beating Charlotte Cooper 5-7, 7-5, and 6-2. 1907, the Nationals stole a record 13 bases off catcher Branch Rickey. Dang, that was a crappy catcher. 1910, the first airship with passengers made its maiden voyage, the Zeppelin LZ-7 Deutschland, and got stuck in some trees in Mount Limburg, Lower Saxony, injuring one crew member. Interesting, though. 1914, the assassination of Franz Ferdinand occurred, the Archduke of Austria and his wife Sophie, by Bosnian Serb assassin Gavrilo Princip in Sarajevo, setting off a chain of alliances that began World War I. Okay, well, here we go. On this date, in 1914, the catalyst for what would eventually become the First World War, and arguably extend into the 40s, started. Well, 1919, the Treaty of Versailles, ending the First World War and establishing the League of Nations, was signed in France. Well, look at that. On, World War I, 5 years to the day. That is really interesting. 1923, Queen Wilhelmina and Prince Henry of the Netherlands stated a visit to London. Nice. 1928, Louis Armstrong made 78 recording of West End Blues. So, 78 recordings, and he recorded 78 times. Is that what it's saying? 78 recordings? What's 78 recording? I think somebody just forgot to put in an S there. 1934, Adolf Hitler fled to Essen, Germany for a night of long knives. Flew to Essen, not fled. He flew to Essen. Well, I guess fled and flew, depending on the context you use, is the same thing. But anyway, no, he went to Essen in Germany to start the Night of Long Knives. And what is this Night of Long Knives? Let's take a look at this. The Night of the Long Knives, or the Rohim Purge, also called Operation Hummingbird, was a purge that took place in Nazi Germany from June 30th to July 2nd in 1934. So he was the Chancellor of Germany at the time. Look, what am I doing? Okay, there we go. I'm going to add this wiki into the underbar. There it is. Okay. Underbar. Post. Come on, let me post it. There we go. What else happened on this date? Pardon me. 1 year later, in 1935, FDR ordered a federal gold vault to be built at Fort Knox, Kentucky. Yes, that is the Federal Gold Reserve. Often believed to be called itself Fort Knox, it is not. That's the military base that was around it. It was just built within it. And yeah, there's a whole lot of controversy around that. Some people surmise that there's not a penny of gold left in there. You know, everything's been shipped over to Europe and given to all these globalists, elitists, and all that stuff and whatnot. 1938, Bradman scored 102 in drawn second test cricket at Lord's. Okay. 365 days later, in 1939, Joe Louis defeated Tony Galento by technical knockout at 2:29 in round 4 at Yankee Stadium, New York City, in his 7th heavyweight boxing title defense. 1953, during the U.S. Open Women's Golf at the Country Club of Rochester, Betsy Rawls won an 18-hole Sunday playoff by 6 strokes over runner-up Jackie Pung. 1957, Frick overruled and named Stan Musial, Willie Mays, and Hank Aaron to team. Interesting. Who's Frick? You know? 1963, Nikita Khrushchev visited East Berlin. 1964, Organization for the Afro-American Unity formed in New York by Malcolm X. Nice. What's wrong with his neck, though? Something just doesn't look right. That looks weird. 1 year later, 1965, the first U.S. ground combat forces in Vietnam were authorized by President Lyndon B. Johnson. I remember he butted heads with John F. Kennedy over involving themselves in Vietnam. And what happened to Kennedy? Yeah. You know, some people say that somebody wanted the position and he got rid of the person above him. So, 1967, George Harrison was fined 6 pounds for speeding. Dang. You know what? Maybe I can lose some weight. Maybe I should go to Britain, Speed All the Way, and then just have them, take the pounds right off of me. Bring out the liposuction machine. I'll stimulate your economy. 1971, U.S. Supreme Court 8-0 overturned a draft evasion conviction of Muhammad Ali. 2 years later, in 1973, the Black Sports Hall of Fame formed. Paul Robinson, Elgin Baylor, Jesse Owens, Jim Brown, Wilma Rudolph, Joe Louis, and Aletha Gibson were elected. Well, you know what, you guys, you're always talking about, stop segregating, and then you went and segregated. You segregated. I don't know why certain communities just can't seem to figure things out. 1974, Paul McCartney and Wings released singles Band on the Run and Zoo Gang in the United Kingdom. 1982, Prince Charles and Diana, Princess of Wales, named their baby William. Oh, dang. You know what? Seeing how this guy looks now, I don't think Princess Diana was suffering too much now. She probably dodged a bullet. 1988, Mike Tyson sued for break contract with manager Bill Clayton. 1990, Emmy 17th Daytime Award presentation, Susan Locke lost for the 11th time. Wow. 11 times? Just stop. Just stop trying. You're not going to win. God himself is making sure that she doesn't win. Also, moving on up into 1992, Raw Lewis's dramatic play Chinese Coffee, starring Al Pacino, opened at the Circle and Square Theater, New York City, running for 18 performances. That's not a lot. Chinese Coffee. 1993, doctors recommended ligament transplant to Jose Canseco's arm. Alright. Moving on up into 1994, New York Met pitcher Dwight Gooden was suspended for 60 days due to drug charges. Aye. Also in 1994, Jonah Lamu became the youngest ever All-Black at 19 years, 45 days, playing rugby for New Zealand against France in Christchurch. Cool. 1996, The Nutty Professor, starring Eddie Murphy, opened in theaters in the U.S. Nice, yeah, I remember The Nutty Professor. 2002, during the Glastonbury Film Festival, or the Glastonbury Festival in Pilton, England, Coldplay and Rod Stewart headlined with other performers including Roger Waters, Isaac Hayes, Annie DeFranco, the Charltons, and the White Stripes. 2003, Pirates of the Caribbean, The Curse of the Black Pearl, directed by Gore Verbinski, starring Johnny Depp, Keira Knightley, and Orlando Bloom, premiered at Disneyland. Alright. 2009, Professor Stephen Hawking hosted a party for time travelers at the University of Cambridge, not sending out the invites until after the party. Ha ha ha, that's pretty cool. I wonder if anybody showed up. 2011, Christine Lagarde became the first woman to be elected head of the International Monetary Fund, or the IMF. 2013, Jay Honorate and Dan O'Toole's final Sports Center broadcasted on TSN. Dun-dun-dun, dun-dun-dun. 2017, China's President Xi Jinping began a 3-day trip to Hong Kong to mark 20 years since the territory was handed back to China. Yeah, well, it shouldn't have been. Also in 2017, Spider-Man Homecoming, directed by John Watts, starring Tom Holland, Michael Keaton, and Robert Downey Jr., premiered in Los Angeles. Wow. And let's see here. We're gonna, before we move up into births and deaths here, were there any articles that you were interested in? Were any articles that you could, expand knowledge of? Any articles that you wish me to expand knowledge of? Leave your comments in the underbar, or in the comment section, whatever, beneath the underbar. The underbar. Anyway, moving on into births, starting us off in the year 1491, we have Henry VIII, King of England, from 1509 to 1547. He separated the Church of England from the Roman Catholic Church. He was born in London in 1547. Ah, so this is the guy who kept divorcing and beheading his wives and stuff. Or I think, was this the same guy who kept beheading his wives because he couldn't divorce them, so he got them killed, and then eventually he just formed the Church of England so he could divorce them because the papacy just would not let this guy be a fool? I don't know. Anyway, 1703, John Wesley, English, was born on the state. He was an English Christian theologian and co-founder of the Methodist movement, born in Epworth, England, dying in 1791. Pierre Laval was born on this date in 1883. He was the Prime Minister of France from 1931 to 1932 and 1935 through 36. He was also the head of Vichy France from 42 to 44. He was born in Châteaudun, France, dying in 1945. That's a lot of numbers I just spewed out. 1902, Richard Rodgers was a U.S. composer, mostly for theater. Rodgers and Hearts, Paul Joey, Babes in Arms, Rodgers and Hammerstein, Oklahoma, where the sun don't shine, South Pacific, The King and I, and The Sound of Music. And he was also the first EGOT, which is Emmy, Grammy, Oscar, and Tony Awards winner. He was born in New York City, New York, dying in 1979. Wow. This guy has a pretty good resume. And I had no idea. Like, you won an Emmy, a Grammy, an Oscar, and a Tony, you're an EGOT. It's pretty cool. Mel Brooks was born on this date in 1926. He also known as Melvin Kaminsky. So that's his actual name. So his real name is not Mel Brooks, it's Melvin Kaminsky. Huh. He is a U.S. actor, comedian, and director of Get Smart, Blazing Saddles, and Spaceballs. Hey, I know 2 of those movies. Those are good. Blazing Saddles, man, that is a good movie. You want to get nice and offended in today's soft world, go watch Blazing Saddles. You will be on the wall. Born in New York City, New York. Muhammad Yunus was born on this date in 1940. He is a Bangladeshi banker, Grameen microlending, an economist, Nobel Peace Prize in 2006, and he was born in Chittagong, British India. Huh. Kathy Bates, in 1948, she is a U.S. Academy Award-winning actress, specifically for the film Misery. She was born in Memphis, Tennessee. Huh. Not too far from where I was born. 1960, John Elway. We know that name. He is a U.S. NFL quarterback for the Denver Broncos Super Bowl of 32 and 33. He was born in Port Angels, Washington. Huh. He kind of has like a little bit of a Ron White kind of look on his face. Like, like... Elon Musk. Oh, man. 1971, a U.S. African American. Well, why won't they say this here? Because he's white? He is an African American entrepreneur and inventor. SpaceX, Tesla, PayPal. He was born in Pretoria, South Africa. Now, he didn't invent any of those. SpaceX was already established. He just bought it. PayPal, I think he worked on it with other people, so he wasn't solo with that. Tesla was already established. He bought it. And a lot of the money he got was from government grants. So, he's not an entrepreneur at all. He's just a highway robber. Like, the more you look into what he's actually done, who that man really is, you know, you pull the wool out from over your eyes, people. Elon Musk is trash. Anyway, moving on into deaths. In 1836, James Madison was the 4th U.S. president, serving from 1809 to 1817. He died in Montpelier, Virginia, at the age of 85. Dang. Franz Ferdinand, oh here we go, dying in 1914, assassinated. He was the Archduke of Austria, and his wife Sophie were assassinated in Sarajevo by a young Serb nationalist, Gavrilo Princip, leading to declarations of war in World War I. 1 year later, Victor Trumper died on this date. He was an Australian cricket batsman, 48 tests, top score is 214. He's a key figure foundation of rugby league in Australia. He died of Bright's disease at the age of 37. Well, at least he's not in a dark place. I'm going to hell. 1972, Presenta Chandra Mahalanobis was an Indian scientist and applied statistician, Mahalanobis distance, whose birth date is celebrated annually in India as National Statistics Day. He died at the age of 78. Well, happy National Statistics Day, India. If you guys actually celebrate that or know about that or anything, I don't know. And that appears to be the end of any notable births or deaths on this show. And that concludes the show. Short show today, but you know, I'm working on trying to get more co-hosts and everything. Sohead has just completely abandoned me, it seems. But anyway, once again, you can check the underbar of the description for any links that you may be interested in, which also includes everything Omni Coalition. For your dose of past events daily, we stream every day at 10 in the morning Pacific time. For all of you and all of us, I am A.O. Xander, and you are you! Don't forget to look right, left at every intersection, rate 5 thumbs, and subscribe. And until tomorrow, you will see us then. Toodles! Let's go.